Makoto Kano is a timid, tomboyish girl. In her final year of high school, almost all the students in her class are now ready to decide what they'll do with their lives after school. But Makoto has no idea at all. She is and always has been a confused girl. In school, she has three particularly close friends. Kosuke, whose father is a doctor and he too hopes to get into medical school one day. Yuri, who is Makoto's only friend, and Chiaki, who transferred to the school only a couple of months ago. Makoto hangs out with these three people during her free time, and that's almost all that she does. One very special day of July 13th, Makoto wakes up pretty late for school. This isn't something new for our clumsy Makoto. She races down from her room, heading straight outside. Her mother stops her on her way and tells her to deliver some peaches to her aunt, who works at an art museum, while returning from school. Makoto grumbles, but agrees to do so. Her bike is a tad old, and it's safe to say she's too lazy to keep it in its best condition, and as she rides downhill on it, her brakes don't seem to work properly. She slams into the guardrail, blocking the road for a train crossing. The day was only getting started. She gets in just in time to see that her teacher was not present at the class. Thinking it was her lucky day, she thanks her stars, but the teacher was late because he had prepared a surprise test for them. Obviously, Makoto does poorly, but the day gets worse. In her cooking class, she ends up not only burning her tempura, but also burning the pan, which she was cooking on. Oh, and it keeps getting worse. As she walks by, minding her own business, a hooligan slams into her and makes her fall. And to top it all off, her sister had eaten her lunch's dessert pudding. Later on, as Makoto delivers the schoolwork of her class back to the science class, she hears some noise coming from the teacher's room and goes to check it out. When she looks around, she sees that there's no one until she finally sees a shadow. She stumbles and falls and lands on a weird-looking walnut, and just like that, she falls into a vast ocean, and then through the start of mankind, and through all sorts of weird stuff, and back again to the very place where she had stumbled. She finds it weird and relates the incident to her friends after school, but they just laugh her off. After playing a bit of catch, Makoto heads to her aunt and races her bike down the same hill. She whizzes past a woman at high speed. Now, if this were any other day, it might have been different, but today it was a really unlucky day for her. Her brakes didn't work. As the train arrives at the crossing behind the guardrails, she slams onto them. She's taken off her bike by the impact and she's heading straight for the train. Realizing that she's about to die, Makoto wishes that if she knew this day would be like this, she would have woken up early, done a bit better in her exams, and perhaps spent some time with her friends. She closes her eyes, waiting for her death, but as she opens her eyes, she finds herself well behind the train guardrails. Astounded, confused, and scared, she rushes to her aunt and explains the whole ordeal to her. She's not amazed at all. She thinks it's casual. Guess that's why they call her Aunt Witch all the time. She tells her that this event is called a time leap. She had done it once when she was young too. It's nothing strange. Makoto just needs to find out how she did it, and she could even do it again and again. This idea sticks to Makoto's mind, who goes home and tries to figure out how she had time leaped earlier. She tries jumping from one bed to another, which doesn't work. She tries jumping from the window, but her sister stops her. She thinks Makoto is committing the unthinkable because she ate her pudding. Jeez. Makoto goes to a nearby riverside, telling herself that it must just be a dream. She couldn't have possibly traveled through time. It couldn't be true. She gets up ready to leave, but runs back and jumps from the riverbanks, and suddenly she reaches back 1 day ago. She goes to check that her pudding was intact. She had in fact time traveled, her trigger being a large leap or jump. She leaps one more time back to her unluckiest day. And this time she does all the things she thought she would do when she had almost, died. Knowing the future events which would transpire, she stays in this timeline, but this time making sure everything goes according to her plan. She wakes up early and goes to school on time, and gets a perfect score on her surprise test. She manages to switch places with Tosaki in cooking class so that he gets into the accident instead. She was hoping it wouldn't happen altogether, but it was fine as long as it didn't happen to her. She manages to avoid the hooligans gracefully as well, and to top it all off, convinces her friends to go to karaoke after their baseball game. She leaps 5 more times during karaoke to make the session as long as possible. The next few days go by with great enjoyment for Makoto, who boasts to her new aunt how nothing can go wrong with her life now, and even if something goes bad, she can just time leap and fix everything up. Her aunt warns her that if she's enjoying it, someone must be suffering in her place, which sounds unreasonable to Makoto, who just brushes it off. But soon, things start getting a bit out of hand. It all starts the day when one of the juniors of the school, Kaho, comes up to Kosuke to ask if he's dating Makoto, and she asks him out on a date. Kosuke catches up with his friends and relates how he had rejected her. This makes Chiaki wonder what would happen to the group if one of them started dating. And while returning home with Makoto, bluntly, he asks her out. Makoto hasn't really thought of him as anything else than a friend ever, so she time leaps hoping he wouldn't bring up this point again, but Chiaki seems adamant on asking her out. She uses her time leap one more time and avoids him instead to get rid of the question. The next few days, she continues to avoid the boy until she realizes that Yuri has a crush on him. Later, Tasaki was being bullied by some boys for ruining cooking class by causing a fire, so he decides to get back at them one day, as he is blasting them with a fire extinguisher. Wonder where the teachers are. By the way, Makoto notices him and realizes that it was because of her that he had gotten into this situation. Unfortunately for her, Tasaki also realizes that Makoto was the one who had put her in that place and throws the huge fire extinguisher at her. Chiaki comes in time to stop it from hitting her and hurts himself instead. Not wanting him to get hurt, Makoto time leaps and pushes him aside. The fire extinguisher hits Yuri instead. She has to be taken to the school nurse. The whole situation brings Chiaki and Yuri close, and they start dating. Later that day, as Makoto is taking a bath, she's pretty pissed at Chiaki for how quickly he had changed his mind after confessing to her just days before. She suddenly realizes that there's a strange numbered tattoo on the back side of her arm. It says 96. She doesn't give much attention to it. Since Chiaki was now dating and the group is only her and Kosuke, Makoto has a lot of time on her hands. She decides to go to her aunt one day and she shows Makoto a painting. The painting is a strange one, in that they don't know if it's of any value or was even made by anyone special, but they know that it's old and from a time of war and famine. But it doesn't have any symbolic meaning, they don't know who made it and what it represents. It's a still image of nothingness. Over the next few days, Makoto goes back and forth in time trying to fix some things that she had made go wrong. While doing so, Makoto realizes that the tattoo on her arm was actually a counter, which counted down the number of times she had leaped, and figures out that once it reaches 0, it's all done for. Her time leaping is over. With her last 2 time leaps remaining, Makoto leaps back to the very first day to figure out who was in the science lab before her. Who was it that she saw? She goes there and finds that it wasn't anyone at all. It was, in fact, her hallucination. Just then, she gets a text from Kosuke, who tells her that he's taking Kaho on her bike to his father's hospital, who had injured her legs after her accident with the hooligans earlier. Makoto's eyes widen. She remembers that the bike's brakes won't work today, and Kosuke would get into that accident which she got in, the one that was supposed to have killed her. She rushes out of school, calling him all the way, while hoping nothing had happened. When she reaches the scene, Kosuke hadn't arrived there. He must have taken a different way. Makoto breathes a sigh of relief and gives a call to Chiaki to ask if he knew where Kosuke was. Chiaki picks up and tells her that Kosuke went home, and then asks Makoto one question. Are you time leaping? Makoto gets flustered. She doesn't want to answer this question and decides to use her last leap to make sure that Chiaki didn't ask it again. Just as her last leap is done, Kosuke and Koho pass by on her bike down the same hill. The train comes on the tracks, and the bike strikes the guardrails. A frantically racing Makoto is unable to stop her friends from the fate they were destined to. The couple on the bike fly towards the train, but suddenly time stops. Someone else had time leaped. It was Chiaki. He comes to her as the world around them freezes. He tells her that he was from the future, a future where time travel was made possible. He came to see the painting that her aunt had shown her earlier and had planned to return to his original timeline afterward. But as the time flew by, he realized it was so much fun staying alongside them. He had almost used up all of his time leaps as well and had used this final one to save Kosuke. His source of extra leaps, the walnut, had somehow been misplaced and landed on Makoto, who had used that power for her now. He tells her that the future is terrible and wanted to spend some more time with them. But now that he had broken the rules by telling the people of the past about time travel, he would evaporate the next day, a punishment for breaking the rules and staying in the past. Makoto cannot hold back her tears, but there's nothing she can do. Chiaki just disappears. He doesn't even show up the next day in class. Makoto knows that he's gone for good. As she sulks all day trying to come to terms with what had happened, she realized that she had one time leap left. Earlier, Chiaki had time leaped her back to the point where her time leap count was still 1. She uses this time leap to go back in time to the very first day, July 13th, and recovers the used up walnut from the science lab. She confronts Kosuke and tells him not to use her bike, and then rushes to where Chiaki is. She tells him everything that has happened, and tells him that he should go back to the future while he still has one leap left. She tells him that she will make sure that the future is not as terrible, and promises that she will take care of the art and culture and make sure it remains for them to witness in the future. With that promise, the two embrace, and even with a heavy heart, Makoto bids her friend farewell with a smile and some tears. Her life goes back to normal, but now she was more confident in herself, and one thing was for sure, she now knew what to do with her life. She would be an art preserver, just like her aunt, to save ancient art for generations to witness and thus fulfill her promise to Chiaki. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.